MiCA is the MiFID for crypto, if you want. So every company will need to have very, very robust governance, very, very strong internal control framework, the right substance to manage the business.
Today, I have the pleasure to welcome in the studio Jean-Baptiste Graftieaux, who is the CEO of Coinbase Luxembourg. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jérôme. Yeah, thank you for inviting me today again.
Yes, so there is already an interview on YouTube. We talked, I think it was 16 months ago, but a lot of things happened for you and for crypto in Luxembourg over the past 12 months. So can you please just tell us what happened over the past year for you specifically and for the crypto world?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's been a lot of development on my side. 12 months ago, I was global CEO of Bitstamp, which is a crypto exchange with the headquarters in Luxembourg. We went into a transaction with Robinhood, so the business has been sold to Robinhood back in June 2025.
I think transaction was around
about $200 million.
Yes. So quite a significant
transaction for a crypto player. So the transaction has been completed. I had the opportunity to join Coinbase Luxembourg as the CEO of the entity to manage our European operation from Luxembourg. So I joined the company over the summertime, and so it has been like 6 months, from today. Managing the team, managing our license, staffing up the entity, looking at our strategy, and very happy to deep dive on any topics for Coinbase, obviously.
Yeah, no, we saw your CEO, your global CEO was in Luxembourg last summer, so it was a great timing, basically, just after the transaction, just when you joined. But what I would like to understand is what is the potential for Luxembourg in terms of crypto? We remember that back in 2018, we missed the Revolut opportunity. I remember there were a lot of difficulties and frictions about anything which was crypto, again, at the same time. Now we seem to progress. What is the potential if we unleash this idea that crypto could become a real specialty for Luxembourg?
Yeah, very interestingly. So if we look at maybe the last 12 years, the first company, so Bitstamp at the time was trying to establish its headquarters in one of the EU member states. So at the time, Bitstamp went to France and Germany and other countries to try to become regulated. And at the time, crypto was a very different crypto market. It was limited to a very limited number of traders and more retail players. And I would say the only country at the time which was willing to regulate crypto was Luxembourg. So Bitstamp established the European headquarters in Luxembourg.
I think there was a vision of Betel at the time.
Exactly, yeah. It was back in 2016, so 10 years ago.
Just before he started the Loft and after he decided we were a startup nation and a fintech paradise.
Exactly, yeah. That was that timing at the time. And then, from 2000, let's say 14, 15 until 25, the crypto market has been extremely fragmented. If you want to operate crypto for this period of time, you need to have a license in France and Italy and Spain, Luxembourg. So tons of license, which is very expensive to get and also very expensive and challenging to maintain. And now with the MiCA regulation, so the EU MiCA regulation, basically it's like the investment funds or the payment industry. The company choose one country in Europe, and then you can passport your activity across the different EU member states. So Coinbase selected Luxembourg, as the European headquarters. So today we have a MiCA license. We don't have to maintain, a license in France or Italy or Spain and other countries. One single license, you passport your activities, and basically we are driving our business from Luxembourg. I would say the good thing for Luxembourg is the know-how. As we mentioned, the regulators, the authorities have been looking into crypto since 2014, so more than 12 years, which is, in my opinion, very unique, in Europe. The regulator has the know-how, the authorities as well, and I think the country has been able, to attract many crypto players. We know there is a lot of application with CSF, as we speak. Ripple got, in principle, also license this week. So it means, Luxembourg has been able to attract in Coinbase, but also Ripple and many new actors as well will probably join forces in the country. Zodia is here as well, and many others. We have also very, very interesting talent base, pool of talent, in Luxembourg, essentially to help us to drive our business. So I think, the Luxembourg is very well positioned as the know-how. There is a pool of talent. The authorities are very innovative when it comes to crypto. So I think we are very, very well positioned to take significant market share, I would say, from the crypto industry here in the country.
Yeah, as you said, it's an incredible repetition of what happened in the 80s when there was the first UCI directive, which was transposed, and of course, Luxembourg attracted all the fund managers to passport their thing. Similar thing was made with life insurance, and now it's happening through MiCA, I would imagine. But
exactly.
A question about MiCA. Before, the first country who was transposing, of course, gained a competitive advantage. But I heard recently that some countries have still not transposed MiCA, like Poland, for example. And you could say that it could make it attractive for somebody who would like to be not regulated. How do you approach this contrast?
Yeah, so MiCA, is kind of a fresh regulation. It's not a directive, so that there is no transposition, per se in each EU member state. It's a regulation. So basically, since January 2025, each EU member state is following MiCA regulation, which means that any entity, any crypto entity can choose one country, apply for a license, establish its headquarters in that country, and passport the activity. At EU level, interestingly, there are between 200 and 250 application files on crypto. Interestingly, I would say it's difficult to know, but I would say probably like 20, maybe 30 applications are in Luxembourg. And I think the rest of the countries which have been very compelling for the industry, it's Netherlands, it's France, it's Germany. And yeah, I think Luxembourg is very well positioned because there's the know-how, because other players have established their headquarters here, so there is a good legacy that we can leverage, and also a very, very interesting pool of talents. I mean, there is an ecosystem here. There is quite a dynamic crypto ecosystem. I heard as well that there will be even more education on crypto, so that employees or people can get educated on crypto and blockchain, which will definitely contribute to the dynamic of the place, whereby companies establishing themselves can, of course, bring their staff to Luxembourg, but also to hire local people. So when it comes to MiCA today, yeah, it's live everywhere, in the EU.
So this is something I need to dig in, because I heard recently that in Poland, for example, it was not signed by the highest authority.
Possibly what happens there is that they have application file, but they have not granted the first license. That's
okay.
Maybe the sensitivity with that given country. But it's a regulation, so basically you can apply everywhere in the EU today on MiCA.
So another question, which is, of course, we haven't talked about the elephant in the room, which is Binance. Binance is, I think, 50% share in Europe player. The CZ, the CEO, spent a few weeks in jail in America. So we know that Luxembourg has a very risk-averse culture. So if anything happens to any crypto firm in Luxembourg, we know it's not going to go well. So how do you think Luxembourg can prevent any risk that could slow down the growth of this center of excellence?
No, it's a very good question. I mean, today, because of the success of Luxembourg with Coinbase, for instance, or yesterday was Ripple, and we know Bitstamp and Robinhood are also in the country, and some other actors. So I think the country is very well positioned to attract new entrants, new players. At the same time, MiCA is the MiFID for crypto, if you want. So every company will need to have very, very robust governance, very, very strong internal control framework, the right substance to manage the business. So there's a lot of requirements, a lot of compliance requirements that every single firm needs to accommodate. And by the experience, by the know-how, by I think the great work that the authorities have been doing to attract players to Luxembourg, we see an interesting ecosystem. We see a very, very interesting ecosystem in the country. And I think, again, if we take, Coinbase and Bitstamp, Robinhood, and some of the other actors, in terms of market share, let's put like, on market share, I think Luxembourg is probably today maybe like 15, 20, 25% of the overall EU market. Yeah. And as you mentioned, Jean, Binance today is probably like 50% of the market in Europe. Of course, not in Luxembourg, but when you take the ecosystem in Luxembourg and you add the market share, it's probably like maybe 20-25% of the overall EU market.
Yeah, which is very significant already. And again, maybe Binance understood by now that it cannot be semi-compliant. I remember I interviewed 2 years ago Javier Paz, which is the head of data and analytics at Forbes, and he just told me to look at who is auditing Binance, and it was quite shocking because it's a very tiny audit firm with 8 people, and I think 2 are cousins. So it looked very, very shady. And a few months later, I was not surprised to see what happened. So maybe this is the end of the semi-compliant world, and we are switching to a hyper-compliant. As you said, MiFID is a very good example, a MiFID world where either you play by all the rules or you're not allowed to play the game.
Exactly, yeah. And also MiCA is very, very interesting because we come from that very fragmented framework, as we mentioned earlier. Like you at the time you had to get a local registration, so expensive, very difficult to manage, and so. And MiCA is a bit of a revolution in our market, which means that it's unlocking opportunities. It's also increasing consumer protection, and when you offer more protection and more confidence to the customers, that's enabling also some business opportunities. Obviously. The retail consumers get more confidence. They are more inclined to invest in the crypto market. At the same time, as we just mentioned, the entry barriers are quite high.
Yes.
So of course, if you are not successful in terms of compliance, if you don't have the investment to build your governance, the company will not be eligible to get a MiCA license. So we see at the same time a little bit of consolidation of the market.
Of course.
Because we won't see like 1,000 players, but maybe 100, 200, 250, whatever number will be. And that market will be, of course, restricted to very compliant platforms. So more to come. It's only 1 year. MiCA is only 1 year. We learn every day. I think everyone is learning from the regulation every day. There will be probably a MiCA 2 at some point. But at least, it's a framework which is enabling, even more business opportunities, increasing consumer confidence. So of course we have been very supportive of MiCA, in the last couple of years.
And we talked a little bit before the interview. I think there's 2 things that we need to make sure Luxembourg delivers. It's clarity with the regulator, knowing when people will get an answer, so that we have a swift process, especially when sending a registration. And then the other thing, we were talking about what happens in France. I think security must be addressed, not just Grand Rue as we see it every day, but we saw with Eric Larchevêque and a lot of companies that anything related to crypto is attracting sometimes bad people. So we need to make sure Luxembourg remains a very, very safe place, so that if we attract more companies, people feel safe to do business here.
Yeah, absolutely, Jean. Yeah, if I can comment maybe on the safety, of course, we see in France, but also other countries, like almost every second week or every month, like kidnapping or people being like really, really terrified at their place. And of course, it's really important for us here in Luxembourg, given all the new MiCA players and all the crypto employees in the sector. Yeah, that's of course we maintain a high level of safety. I think it's very, very key for the industry. And at the same time, to your initial points, I think moving forward, my reflection, having been in crypto now since 2014, I really like the engagement with the authorities, especially in Luxembourg, the level of engagement, the dynamic, the knowledge, and so on. Of course, at the same time, we hear some actors willing to have more speed, maybe, in their application process. In the UK, for instance, when there is some sort of service level agreement with the FCA, when you apply for any type of license, not only MiCA, but any type of license. So there might be an opportunity for some adjustment or developments or learning from other countries, where effectively when you apply for license, you would like to know the timeline. You would like to have clarity on when you may or not receive the license, so that you can staff up your entity, you can organize yourself, operationalize your team to support the license. So of course there is some opportunities that we could tackle. But for us, Coinbase, we already MiCA license, so we are extremely pleased to have the license and be established in the country.
Yeah, and what's surprisingly interesting too, which is on top of crypto industry, we have a growing AI industry here. I have in mind Emma and I have in mind G-Core. There are others who have a significant presence, and we see that the players behind those firms are the same. Because if you want to do crypto, you need GPUs, you need to deploy them, and it's very often the same investors, it's the same money. So we are in a very unique place in Luxembourg right now to not only attract crypto, but also AI giants. And of course, this could pave the next decades of growth. So thank you very much, and I wish you a lot of growth with your new company.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean-Baptiste.
Thank you.